Hey everybody, I'm gonna read. We haven't read in a while. Crenshaw, the book. We're on chapter 17. So get your snacks, get in the bed, and relax and try to sleep. Okay. Chapter 17 of Crenshaw. Close your eyes and relax. Robin was waiting for me in the hallway, sitting crisscross applesauce. Her stuffed armadillo Spot was in her lap. I took her hand and led her back to her bedroom. Her rainbow nightlight painted stripes on the ceiling. I wish I had one in my room, although I've never admitted it. I heard you talking, she said, as she crawled under the blanket. Sometimes I talk to myself. That's kind of weird, Robin yawned. Yeah, I said, tucking her in. It is. You promised, Lyle, she reminded me. I've been hoping she'd forgotten. Yep. He's in my keepsake bag. I rammed around in the brown paper bag. A bold doll poked out of the top, sizing me up with blank and beady eyes. Scoosh over, I said. Robin made room for me on her mattress. I opened the book. Its pages were soft, its cover tattered. Robin, I asked, have you ever had an imaginary friend? You mean like invisible? Invisible, yeah, like that. Nope. Really? Never? Nope. I have Lysandra and Jimmy and Kylie. And sometimes Josh when he's not being a boogerhead. They're real. Said, I don't need a pretend. I flipped through the pages of the book, but sometimes you know when you're alone. I paused. I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to ask. Like say you're home and you don't have any friends over and you really need to talk to someone who will listen. Not even then. Nope, she smiled, 'cause anyways I have you. It made me happy to hear her say that, but somehow it wasn't quite the answer I've been hoping for. I opened to the first page. This is the house of East 88th Street. It's empty now. Like our house, Robin interrupted. Only we live in apartment. True, Jax, Robin said softly. Remember when we lived in the minivan for a while? Do you remember that? You were just little. Kinda, I remember, but not really, Robin made Spot to a little dance in her blanket. But you told me about it, so I was wondering. Wondering what? Spot performed a backflip. Wondering if we're going to have to live there again. Because where would we go to the bathroom? I couldn't believe it. Robin was like a kid. How had she figured it out so much? Did the spy on our parents the way I did? Robin sniffled. She wiped her eyes with Spot. I realized she was crying about making any noise. I miss my things and I don't want to live in a car with no potty. Also, my tummy keeps growling, she whispered. I knew what to tell her. She needed to hear the facts. We were having money problems. We were probably going to have to leave our apartment. We might even end up back in the minivan. There was a good chance she had to leave all her friends behind. I put my arm around Robin and hugged her close. She looked up at me. Her eyes shimmered. You need to tell the truth, my friend. Don't be ridiculous, I said. We can't live in our car. Where would you put popsicles besides Artha and Dad snore like crazy? She laughed, just a little. You worry too much, girl. Everything's fine. I promise. Now let's get back to Lyle. Another sniffle. A nod. Hey, Fun fact about crocodiles, I said. Did you know that a bunch of them in the water is called a float? Robin didn't answer. She was already sound asleep, snoring softly. Me, I couldn't sleep. I was too busy remembering. Part 2. Mashed potatoes are to give everybody enough. The first book, the first definition. We're on chapter 18. Here we go. I guess becoming homeless doesn't happen all at once. My mom told me once that money problems sort out sneak up on you. She said it's like catching a cold. At first you just have a ticket in your throat, and then you have a headache, and then maybe you're coughing a little. The next thing you know, you have a pile of Kleenexes around your bed, and you're hacking your lungs up. Maybe we didn't become homeless overnight, but that's what I felt like. I was wishing first grade my dad had been sick. My mom had lost her teaching job, and all of a sudden, bam, we weren't living in a nice house with a swing set in the backyard anymore. At least that's how I remember it. But like I said, before memory is weird, it seems like I should have thought to myself, whoa, I'm going to miss my house and my neighborhood and my friends and my life. But all I remember thinking was how about fun living in our minivan was going to be. Chapter 19. We moved out of the house right after first grade ended. There was no big announcement, no goodbye party. We just sort of left, the way you abandon your desk at the end of school year. You clean it out, but if you leave a few pencils and an old spelling test behind, you don't worry about it too much. You know the kid who has your desk next fall will take care of things. My parents didn't own a lot of stuff, but they still managed to fill our minivan. You should hardly see out the windows. I've saved my pillow and backpack to load last. I was putting them onto the rear seat when I noticed something odd. Someone had left the back windshield wiper on, even though it was a sunny day. No rain, no clouds, no nothing. Back, forth, forth. My parents were packing odds and ends in the house, and Robin was with me. I was all alone. Back, forth. I looked closer. The wiper was long and awfully hairy. It looked a lot like a tail than a windshield wiper. I leaped out and ran to the rear. I saw the dent in the fender from the time my dad backed into a shopping cart at Costco. I saw the bumper sticker my mom had used to cover the dent. It said, "I brake for dinosaurs." I saw the windshield wiper, but it wasn't moving, and it wasn't hairy. And right then I knew the way you know that it's going to rain long before the first drop splatters on your nose, that something was about to change. Chapter 20. When the minivan was packed, we stood in the parking lot. Nobody wanted to get in. "Why don't I drive, Tom?" said my mom. "You were in a lot of pain this morning." "I'm fine," my dad said firmly. "Fit as a fiddle," whatever that means. My mom strapped Robin into a car seat and we climbed into the minivan. The seats were hot from the sun. "This is only a few days," said my mom, adjusting her sunglasses. 2 weeks tops," said my dad. "Maybe 3 or 4. We just need to catch a little." My mom was using her nothing's wrong voice. I knew something was really wrong. "Pretty soon we'll find a new apartment. I liked our house," I said. "Apartments are nice too," said my mom. I don't get why we can't just stay. It's complicated, said my dad. You'll understand when you're older, Jackson said to my mom. Play Wiggles, Robin yelled, squirming in her car seat. She loved the Wiggles, a group that wrote silly songs for kids. First a little hitting the road, music Robin said to my dad. The Wiggles, he slipped a CD into the car player. It was one of my mom and dad's favorite singers. His name was B.B. King. My mom and dad like a kind of music called blues. In a blues song, somebody said about something like maybe they broke up with their girlfriend, or they lost all their money, or they missed a train to a faraway place. But the weird thing is when you hear the song, it feels happy. My dad makes up lots of crazy blues songs. Robin's favorite was Ain't No PB in My PBJ. Mine was called Downside Up Vampire Bat Boogie, about a bat who couldn't sleep upside down, like bats are supposed to do. I never heard the B.B. King song, but my dad had chosen to play. It was about somebody's love that except the mother. What's that mean about how even his mom could by giving him? Dad, I asked. Giving means lying. It's funny, see, because your mom and dad always love you. Except when you don't floss, said my mom. I was quiet for a while. Do kids always have a lover in their mom and dad? I asked. I called my dad's reflection in the review mirror. He looked back at me with a question in his eyes. Put it in the way, he said. You can be mad at someone and still love them with all your heart. He pulled out of the driveway. Artha sat between Robin and me. She was only a few months old, and still her puppy soft fur clumsy paws. Our neighbor's Mr. Sarah was cutting yellow roses from the garden. We already said official goodbyes. We waved and we waved back that we were on our way to Grand Canyon or Disney World. Does Mr. Sarah have a cat, I asked. A really big cat? Just mumble, my mom answered. The Chihuahua with the attitude. Why? I glanced back at the rear windshield, but it was blocked by boxes and bags. No reason, I said. My dad cranked up the volume on B.B. King, who was still pretty sure nobody loved him, including his mom. Artha cocked her head and held it. She liked to sing along, especially a blues song, although she was like a wiggle too. We drove a few blocks. My lower lip quivered, but I didn't cry. My mom sighed softly. Let the adventures begin, she said. Chapter 21. If you ever have to live in your car, you're going to have some problems with feet, especially if you're stuck in there with a little sister and your mom and your dad and your puppy and your imaginary friend. There are many kinds of feet problems. Stinky dad feet, the magic marker smell of nail polish on your mom's toes because she says she still wants to look nice, so please just deal with it. Sister feet kicking you just as you're falling asleep. The scratchy surprise of dog feet trying to wake you up. Imaginary friend feet tiptoeing on your head. I thought hard about the feet problem. Finally, I came up with the plan. What's the worst that can happen is how I figured it. What I did is I took a cardboard TV box we found behind Walmart. I smushed it in flat. I drew on the outside of the box and the inside too. I only had 3 markers and one dried out when I cat fell under the back seat. So it was mostly just red dogs with blue eyes and blue cats with red eyes. I put stars on the inside. They seemed like a good thing to think about before you went to sleep. I wrote, keep out Jackson rum on the top, said Mom. Too bad we have to leave our dictionary behind, Dad said. If only it really was from Every night I opened up my box and slipped my sleeping bag inside. When I crawled inside, I felt like a caterpillar in a cocoon. It was almost like my old room, where I could think about anyone bugging me. When Robin kicked me in her sleep, she hit the box, which was not exactly the same as kicking me. Unfortunately, Artha liked to sleep with me, so it could get a little dog breath. Also, the box didn't help much with the stinky dad feet. I knew I was a little lucky because had our old Honda minivan, which had lots of room, I met a kid who lived for a whole year in one of those VW cars. It was red and round like a ladybug, just about as teeny. The poor kid had to sleep sitting up, squashed between his two little sisters. Another reason we were lucky was because my sleeping box was just decoration. Some people actually live in boxes on the street. I wasn't looking on the bright side. It's better to have a big car than a little one when we are living in it. It's better to have a box in a car than a box on a street. Those were just facts. I wasn't like my dad, who kept saying we weren't homeless. Oopsie. I wasn't like my dad, who kept saying we weren't homeless. We were just car camping. That's it. We're on chapter 22 next. Crenshaw to cat and a kid. Good night.